The film begins with a person named Eddie, and there are people trying to break into his apartment in order to kill him. He starts talking about the situation that led him here. This is Eddie, before anything happened, an absolute alcoholic and a failed writer who has no idea about writing. He sits for weeks unable to compose a single word in his new book. He has nothing good in his life, and except Lindy, his friend and ex-lover, and she tries to help him as much as possible. He meets Furno, the brother of his ex-wife. He invites him to a place to check on his life. Verno knows that Eddie's life is a failure and is about to collapse. He tells him that he works in a pharmaceutical company and gives him a pill manufactured by his company and that it is approved by the Food and Drug Company. He tells him that a person uses 20% of his own mind, and the function of this pill is to raise the percentage to 100% of the power of the mind, and the price of one pill is $100. Eddie agrees to buy it out of curiosity, and when he returns home on the way, Eddie decides to take the pill. At home, he finds the landlady asking Eddie for rent, and the pill begins to take effect, and his thinking expands, and he notices all the details around him. He starts talking to the owner of the house, and talks to the owner of the house about law school and the greatest author of law books. In a moment, the owner of the house is amazed and impressed by Eddie, and he proposes an idea to help her write an article for her within 45 minutes, which the owner of the house liked very much. He returns home and is very surprised at what happened to him. He starts cleaning the house and washing the dishes with a clear mind. He can do more than one thing at the same time and tries to start writing his book, in which he did not write anything. Then he goes to sleep and wakes up the next day, and the effect is gone, and he returns to normal. He takes the book he wrote yesterday to the head of books, an editor, and she knew. Edie is a failure at writing, but Eddie offers her only to read one page, and if she does not like it, he will pay money for the time she spent. When he returns home, he finds a message on the phone from the editor-in-chief stating that she has read 40 pages and is still reading, and the book is very impressive. Then he decides to go to Furno in order to take one of his pills as well, but he finds Furno beaten and his face is full of bruises. He learns that the pill is made in a laboratory and that it is approved by the Food and Drug Company. It is just a lie, but Eddie asks for the pill from Furno to complete the content of the book, and Furno agrees to give the pill to Eddie just to bring clothes for Furno, because Furno's condition does not allow it. And after Eddie returns with Furno's clothes, he finds that the door to the apartment is open. After he enters the apartment, he finds Furno murdered. He quickly reports the crime, and before the police come, he decides to find the pills he wants. He remembers that Furno cannot cook, and he decides to go and find the pills, and he actually finds the pills. In the oven, he found with it money and a notebook of the numbers of customers who buy pills from Furno. The police come and investigate Eddie and release him. Eddie begins a new personality and takes care of himself because of the pills. Because of the pills, he completed the book in 4 days and decided to earn more money than writing books directly. He went to stocks and the stock market and succeeded. To make money, but he needed more money to make more money. And because the bank gave the loan in exchange for guarantees, he went to Jenny, who gave money and took it back at a high value. And he actually took from him $100,000 and used it on the stock market and worked in a temporary trading company. And within 1 week, he had $2,000. And he quickly became famous in the field of the stock market and began to receive job offers and television interviews. And the news started talking about Eddie, and he was able to return to his ex-lover, and he was waiting for the moment of his interview with one of the biggest elements of the stock market, and the genius Carl. He met Carl, and Eddie began explaining to Carl his way of working, his thinking, and the way he bought and sold the algorithm, which was the reason for his success in the stock market. Carl offered Eddie to drive him home, and along the way, Carl gave Eddie files for companies from the largest energy companies and told him, "Give me your opinion." And as soon as he arrived home, Eddie finished. He analyzed the two files and told him that he must control these two companies in order to control the energy market, or control the larger company in order to lose the second company. Carl was impressed by Eddie's analysis, and Carl agreed with Eddie that they should meet again. Eddie decided to take a walk, and while walking, Eddie noticed that he had passed a long period of time and that he had crossed 20 blocks without realizing it. He decided to walk more, and then he passed more and more periods of time. He decided to live without the pills because of his side effects. He tried to review the files of the energy company and failed. He goes to meet Carl without the pills and finds himself unfocused. He ends the interview with Carl and goes home quickly. He finds a message on the phone from his ex-wife warning him not to take any pills from Furno and tells her that we must meet quickly. He goes to take a book of Furno's clients and finds that most of them have been killed. He calls a phone outside and finds the phone calling near him and sees the person near him and begins chasing Eddie to try to kill him. Then he goes to at the restaurant, he meets his ex-wife, Melissa, and finds her condition deteriorating due to the pills. She tells him that if he abandons the pills, his life will be destroyed and he will die or be killed like what happened before him. Eddie went home, and before he arrived, he met Jenny and beat him because of not paying the money as agreed upon. Eddie quickly tried to take the pills to remind him. Jenny took the pills and took the money and ran away. Eddie went to his beloved Lindy and told her to bring him the pills. She went home to bring the pills to Eddie, but she noticed that she was being watched and watching him, and he was attacking her. She ran away and called Eddie to tell him what happened, and Eddie told her that she had to take the pills in order to escape from him, and she actually took them. The pills reach Eddie, and Eddie takes the pills and returns to normal. Jenny comes to Eddie and asks for more pills and actually gives him the pills. Eddie goes to Carl, and Carl deals with him again. After 2 months of using the pills, Eddie owns the largest corporate company, and Eddie tries to reduce the pills, balance his life, and takes care of his health and quit alcohol. He tries to solve the problem of his running out of pills and goes to agree with a large laboratory to make the same pills from the same ingredients and give the same effect. An investigator comes to Eddie to investigate the murder of a fashion model, and Eddie was the last person to meet the model. But within a short time, the investigator was gone because there were no fingerprints indicating hands. He returns to... The apartment is chaotic, and he goes to another safe place and goes to a meeting with Carl about one of the energy companies that he is trying to acquire. Carl was ready to buy one of the large energy companies, but they are surprised that it is Mr. Atwood's wife, saying that Mr. Atwood, he is in the hospital and very tired. Once Mr. Atwood recovers, he will transfer the company to Mr. Carl. They go to get Mr. Atwood's wife to the car. Eddie notices that Mr. Atwood's private driver is the person who chased him previously and tried to kill him. Eddie knew that Mr. Atwood is in the hospital because he did not get the pills and was taking them from Furno. They summon Eddie because of the murder of the model, and there was a witness present to the murder of the model, but the witness did not recognize Eddie, and Eddie was evacuated, and after that Mr. Toad fell into a coma, and this is the reason that led to the delay in Mr. Carl's deal. Then Eddie discovered that the pills had disappeared from the clothes. He went to the apartment and heard the sound of a knock on the door and learned that Jenny had decided to kill Eddie because Eddie had not delivered the pills. After that, Eddie decided to commit suicide. But at the last moment, he decided to search for pills in the apartment in order to save him, but he failed to find the pills and decided to kill him. Jenny, in order to drink his blood, because the effect of the pills is present in his blood, and the plan succeeds, and he is able to overcome Jenny's men, and then Eddie learns that Mr. Toad died. Then he goes to Toad's driver and tells him how Mr. Toad died, and the lawyer Mr. Toad stole the pills unless he used the pills, but within a few days of the lawyer. He was found murdered, and the pills were returned to Eddie. After 6 months, Eddie ran for the New York elections, and a best-selling book was published. After a while, he met Carl, and Carl began as a kind of threat because of his knowledge of Eddie's pills. Carl bought a pharmaceutical company, and he could stop the production of these pills at any time. Eddie did not do what Carl wanted, but Eddie tells Carl that he did not remain at the mercy of the pills and left them for the rest of his life, and Carl was unable to do anything because of the disappearance of the pills from Eddie's life.